Over the last 10 years or so, I've had a lot of people ask me about my kimchi recipe. From 1990 to 2004, I lived in Korea, and I learned to love Korean food as well as Korean people in the country. When I left in 2004 to go to Germany, there wasn't really any kimchi, and so I had a couple of options. Either go without or learn how to make it. And I have to admit, it was probably a 2 or 3 year process before I really started to get an understanding of how to make good kimchi. I think this is about a 6-pound Napa cabbage. And daikon radish. I have some scallions. These are Japanese scallions. I sourced everything from a Japanese store, as a matter of fact. But these are easily attainable in any American supermarket. Bulbs of garlic. I don't think I'll probably use all that, and some ginger, and I definitely won't use all of this. I also have some fish sauce, rice flour, sweet rice flour, which I'll be using. And then I'll also need some salt and some sugar. I'm going to cut the end of this off. Now I am going to cut this into quarters. Okay, I've got my first quarter. I'm gonna get rid of that. So about, I don't know, 1.5 inch, 2 inch pieces, something like that. I have about a 1/2 cup of coarse sea salt. Any kind of salt would probably work. Again, I'm working with about a 6-pound Napa cabbage, which is a pretty large cabbage. So you could obviously, get 2 medium-sized ones. Again, I have about a 1/2 cup of salt. I don't think I'm going to need all of it though. A little bit more. You just want to kind of work that into the cabbage, because this is going to soften it up. And we'll let it sit for probably 1.5 hours. So looks like about 15 cloves of garlic. Now what I do is I throw the garlic and ginger into a little mini food processor. It's quicker, easier than doing it by hand. Okay, the other thing I can do in preparation ahead of time is cut on my scallions. All right, let me cut the ends of these off, give them a rinse in the sink. So the white parts I'm going to cut fairly small. Talked to my daughter this morning in California, and I told her I was going to make this video. So there's no excuse for her not to make kimchi now, Brianna. You normally need to leave the kimchi sit out 4 to 5 days to get a good fermentation. Summer weather, maybe a couple of days is enough. The next thing I can do, I can go ahead and prep this daikon. So I'm gonna cut that bad boy off there, get rid of that. And cut off the other end, just the tip of it. So I'm gonna cut this probably about a 1/4 inch, and then I'm gonna make, well, let me do these 1/4 inch cuts, about like that. If I'm salting my kimchi for like 1.5 hours, I'll add in this after about the first hour. I really like the daikon in the kimchi. It's really good. There's another kind of kimchi called gatdugi. It's also made with daikon, and it's like these little squares of daikon radish. A couple other things I can do in advance. I'm going to measure out my fish sauce. So I need about 1/3 cup. That's what I normally use. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure out my Korean chili flakes as well, gochugaru. And I generally use about 1 cup. Now I've been buying this organic Korean red chili flakes, gochugaru, from Amazon. And it's really fresh, and it's really good, and it's got a really nice taste. So I highly recommend it. All right, so the last thing we can do in advance is make this rice paste flour. And so I got a cup of water, and I'm gonna put in half a cup of this sweet rice flour. I'm gonna go ahead and cook this sweet rice flour up. And I'll be back in a bit. It's been about an hour since I salted the cabbage for the kimchi. About 30 minutes in, I took a spoon, gave it a stir. Now about 1 hour in, I'm gonna add the daikon radish and mix that in. And then I'll let it set about 30 more minutes, and then we'll be ready to assemble our kimchi. Okay, so it's been about an hour and a half. What I did is I dumped the kimchi into a colander and gave it a quick rinse, not a thorough rinse, because you want some of the salt to still be on there for the fermentation process. You can see, as you can probably see, it's gotten kind of rubbery, so it's softened up quite a bit. What we're going to do now is put it all together. So I'm dumping in, first of all, this is a sweet rice flour paste, garlic and ginger, and I'm gonna dump that in there. Okay, I have my scallions now that are gonna go in next, so I'll dump those in there. Fish sauce is going in. My red chili flakes. This is gonna be a spicy batch. I like my kimchi spicy. So I'm gonna add probably about three to four tablespoons. Sprinkle that over there. I'm gonna put on some latex gloves. Now that I have my gloves on, I'm gonna get in there and start mixing this up. It's gonna be a good batch, I know it. It's gonna be a good batch of kimchi. There's different ways to store this, for fermentation purposes at room temperature. I normally just use Tupperware containers. That works well. The myth about burying it in the ground, maybe people still do it in the countryside of Korea. I don't know anybody that's ever done that. And I'll show you a couple of things you really need to know here. Is you definitely don't want to pack this to the top, because it tends to expand during the fermentation process. One of the ways I know that it's fermenting is that after a day or two, usually a couple of days, the corners of this plastic, it'll start dripping. Liquid will start dripping out. So I always set these on a tray. What I do is maybe twice a day, I will burp the Tupperware, so I'll just push down and let the air out. Do this a couple of times a day, and if you smell an odor, if you smell something coming out of there, that the gas, it's fermenting, it's doing its job. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. So there you have it. It's really not that hard to make kimchi. It just takes a little bit of time, but it's really worth it, to have fresh kimchi, homemade. The stuff's fabulous. I just can't imagine, living without it. Plus the probiotics, are great for the gut. That's it. That's how you make traditional Korean kimchi, the Byrdman's way. I hope you enjoy it. Subscribe if you like, and leave some comments if you have any questions. All right, thanks.